So while I still have some light, I'm going to do a comparison of the Klymit X-Wave versus the Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad. They're both made by Klymit, okay? And the Wave I just got in the mail and it's still in its box. I'm going to take it out of the box. So I'm just guessing here, but I'm just going to put it out there that they're exactly the same thing. Okay, obviously. Okay, so wow, surprisingly, the Wave is smaller than the Gossamer Gear Long Wide. So that's really interesting to me. The Wave is more like it's truly like 1 inch to 1.5 inches of loft, which is pretty awesome. That's really, really small. No wasted space there. And with the whole holes thing in it, you know, I'm a lot more impressed with this AirPad in person than I was on the internet. On the internet, I wasn't blown away by the whole dynamics of it, but yeah, in person, it's a lot more interesting in person. It's so small. The Gossamer Gear Long Wide AirPad, I can attest to you, is tiny. This is a really easy AirPad to carry around, really small. But I guess when you really analyze it, this is 1.5 inches of loft, maybe 2. And this one is really like maybe 3/4 of an inch of loft or maybe 1 inch of loft. All right, and then beyond that, basically you've got this funny pillow thingy. If you're living on your AirPad and you're using the pillow every single day, it's not that awesome, you know, to have a pillow right there. But if you're only sleeping on it for the weekend, yeah, the pillow can be really comfortable. It's just kind of like a funky little pillow thingy to sleep on. And then as far as these holes right there, what that does is this V design, it causes warm air gathers right here in the middle underneath your sleeping bag, okay? But your heart produces the most heat, which is right here. And these baffles lead out to this cold spot in the corner. So if cold air is able to travel down these baffles into the heart area, it causes the sleeping bag to get cold. So what these holes do is it cuts off these baffles so that no cold air travels into the center. But to be honest with you, these baffles are so shallow, I really don't think that that's going to be an issue at all. Your sleeping bag is going to kind of just smother this and prevent any cold air from getting in here. Now, I think that this is designed to put inside of a mummy because of this. These kind of fold in and what have you, and then these down here, these kind of fold in too. I think that it is an option to put it inside of a mummy. I asked Klymit about it via email, and they didn't confirm that it's intended to put inside of a mummy. But it is so small, I'm pretty sure that it would fit. The issue is that in hot weather, you're not going to be able to take your shirt off if you're going to sleep inside of your mummy with your AirPad in warm weather, right? So basically in cold weather, you can wear your technical tee inside of the mummy bag because you're not sweating. But in hot weather, when you sweat, you want to take that technical tee off and just get inside of your synthetic mummy and fall asleep. You know, and you can't really take your tee off if you've got your AirPad inside of the mummy. That's why I really prefer the Wave. The Wave is going to go in between my bag and the dirt. It's going to prevent my bag from getting dirty. It's going to prevent my bag from getting cold. Because really, just to keep your bag, to prevent your mummy bag from getting cold, you just need to lift it up off the dirt. Somehow, some way. There just needs to be something in between you and the dirt. So basically the idea is you put your bag underneath your feet, and that also prevents people from grabbing it. If you're in another country or whatever, and there's a lot of campers around, there's a lot of stealth campers, or you're at like a music festival or something, somebody might just come by and just pick up your bag and just walk off. They just tiptoe off with it while you're asleep. They can't if your feet are on it. So you put your bag underneath your feet. You put your whole synthetic mummy on the bag and on the AirPad. Okay. The bag, no cold air is going to get underneath you because those baffles are so shallow. Your sleeping bag is just going to basically smother the whole thing. And maybe in really cold weather, there will be some radiant cold energy that's coming up from the ground because the AirPad is so thin. But and basically any time that there's a war between warm air molecules and cold air molecules, the cold air molecules are almost always going to win. So it is important to always put your foot bag of your mummy bag on your bag to keep your mummy bag off the ground, because if your foot bag cools off because it's on the ground, it can cool off the whole entire mummy bag, because there's a battle raging between the warm air molecules that are produced by your chest, by your heart, and the cold air that's all around you. The ground is cold, the air is cold, And those cold air molecules are trying to cool off the warm molecules that are produced by your heart. And 9 times out of 10, they are going to achieve that. The cold air molecules are going to win. They're going to cool off your warm mummy bag. So overall, I think that the Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad was warmer, and I really enjoyed using it. I am really excited about the Wave, though. The Wave is just smaller, and that's just what I want. I want like the same thing except smaller. Now I'm going to tell you about how I ended up getting this Wave. Sorry, for just talking your ear off, but my Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad suddenly didn't work. The valve on these Klymits is kind of the weak link of the material. The polyester that they use is really strong. It doesn't get holes in it at all. But the valve isn't that great. So eventually the valve kind of kicked out, and I mailed in the Klymit Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad to Klymit in Utah. They agreed to cover it under warranty. They said it was lost and agreed to send me a different air pad. They told me it would be done in like 5 days. So like a month later, I still hadn't received anything, and they supposedly were sending me the Klymit Static V, which is a much bigger full-length air pad. And I told them, I understand that you can't find the Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad, and I understand that it's discontinued and you don't have any more. But to be honest with you, I really want the Wave. I don't want the Static V. So somehow my package with the Static V in it turned around in San Francisco and went back to Utah without me getting it. And so a month had gone by and I hadn't gotten anything. And then all of a sudden they send me a different Gossamer Gear used long wide air pad that is fine. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm excited to have it. And they sent me a Wave for no reason. They sent me a free air pad and my own air pad repaired. I don't know why they did that, but they sent me 2 air pads. I sent them one broken one that was totally trashed, and they sent me 2 usable, like more or less brand new ones. And I'm so excited. This is just awesome. All right, but basically I would say that the valve is kind of the weak link. Always cover the valve with your shirt. Try to prevent moisture from getting inside the air pads. A lot of moisture, a lot of spit gets into the side of the air pads when you blow these up. Cover the valve with your shirt when you're blowing it up. And, the valve is tricky. It takes a little bit of practice to figure it out. But this is pretty much the bomb. These 2 air pads right here. This one you can't get anymore. But there's always this one, and this one is even smaller. So it's even just better. It's just stealthier and crazier and just smaller and more James Bond, more awesome, more everything. So I can't complain. All right, so this is the Gossamer Gear Long Wide Air Pad that's produced by Klymit. And this is the Klymit X Wave. I like the Klymit X Wave. I wouldn't go smaller than that. I think there's a lot of other people out there who would get a lighter air pad and put it inside their mummy. But I like to hike in Marin County in Northern California during the summer when it's really hot. And I like to get inside of my Mountain Hardwear Spark synthetic mummy bag really sweaty and dirty. And so I don't want my air pad to be inside the mummy. I just want to get comfortable inside my mummy because I throw my synthetic Spark from Mountain Hardwear into the washing machine. Now, I wouldn't recommend putting these air pads in the washing machine if you do decide to sleep on them bareback. If you use a quilt and you're sleeping on these without, if you're just, your face is making the air pad kind of oily because you've got your face right on there because you're not using a mummy, you're using a quilt. I think that's an issue with Klymit because the valve isn't that great, and when you put them in the washing machine, some moisture can get inside of the air pads, and that more or less degrades the valve, and the valve is really what deteriorates over time. The valve stops working, and then when you wake up in the morning, you're laying on the ground because the air escaped through the valve, and then you end up having to mail it back to Klymit to get it fixed. Because the Klymits, they don't pop. More or less, I sleep directly on the dirt with these things, on the rocks. I haven't noticed anything wrong with it at all. I mean, I used to love X-Ped, and those X-Peds would get little holes in them all the time. They just use a thinner polyester. This robust material that they use with the Klymit, it doesn't get any holes in it. So really the only thing you got to really keep in mind is the valve. Keep a lot of water away from that valve, and it's awesome. There it is. I have a few more seconds left before I run out of my 10 minutes on YouTube here, and you can see that they're exactly the same size, okay? The Wave is the same width at the shoulders as the long wide air pad. Okay, the long wide air pad is just a little bit longer down by your ankles, but you can see that now that that one is on top of the other, and okay, they're like more or less exactly the same.